Well, for my last video of the day, my playlist, the webbot has said, or Cliff High has personally said, he has this theory, what he dubbed expando planet theory. As volcanoes and earthquakes, earthquakes crack, volcanoes spewing out lava or mass, etc., displacing ocean and other things because, land mass, it's creating land mass. So that he had this theory, expando planet, and I remember people giving him crap on that. Oh, that's nonsense, right? And he also said recently, look out for new suicide / suspicious, both real and people being suicided in the financial, banking, etc. industry, like he correctly predicted 2 or 3 years ago. And there were up to 28 and 29, 30, some around there, banksters suicided. I mean, out of control. He said, get ready, that's going to start happening again. So Zero Hedge has an article today, March 1st. You'll see this tomorrow. Prominent hedge fund trader jumps to his death in Manhattan. No kidding. And speaking of expando planet theory from the economiccollapseblog.com, is something strange happening inside the Earth, February 28th, 2017. Why are giant fountains of lava suddenly pouring out of some of the most dangerous volcanoes on the entire planet? And why are so many long dormant volcanoes suddenly roaring back to life? The spectacular eruption of Mount Etna in Italy is making headlines all over the world, but it is far from alone. According to Volcano Discovery, 35 major volcanoes either are erupting right now or have just recently erupted, and dozens of others are stirring. So what is causing this upsurge in volcanic activity? Is something strange happening inside the Earth? Well, if there's something strange happening inside the Earth, who are you going to call? Cliff High and the Webbot, not Ghostbusters. So think about this. I can see his theory making perfect sense. You have earthquakes happening, cracking up the land. Is it possible that the Earth is expanding, thus causing the cracks? Who knows? Yes, no, maybe, whatever. Okay. But let's focus on the volcanic activity. Volcano, it spews lots of lava out. And we know they go off and then they're dormant, and they go off and then they're dormant. And no time ever is less Earth or mass going somewhere else, escaping and going off into outer space or something. Therefore, you are adding mass to this big giant sphere. Oh, well, did I say sphere? My flat Earth hat wasn't on. Sorry about that. Anyway, so it makes sense to me. According to the USGS, magma, as Dr. Evil would say, the magma is molten rock underground. And lava is molten rock that breaks through the Earth's surface. Right now, something is pushing magma up through the crust of the Earth at a number of key spots around the planet. On the island of Sicily, the giant fountains of lava that are coming out of Mount Etna can be seen 30 kilometers away. Giant fountains of lava could be seen spouting from the volcano located on the Isle of Sicily as far away as Catania, around 30 kilometers away, and the resort town of Taormina. The Meteorological Observatory in Nunziata said you can clearly see the lava fountains, although currently modest, as it escapes from the crater in the southeast. An orange air alert has been issued, meaning that airspace will remain open, but authorities will continue to monitor the situation. Well, that probably will end well. The authorities, the incompetent of all incompetent of monitoring the situation. On the other side of the world, a constant stream of molten rock has been springing out of Guatemala's volcano of fire since February 25th. And by the way, this is all stuff Webbot's talked about. Just because I do these summaries and I leave a lot of the stuff out of my summaries, it's in the Webbot reports. earthquakes, volcanoes, more flooding, atmospheric rivers, all this stuff. It's in there. Remember the lakes drying up and disappearing overnight? Remember that one? Webbot said to look for that. How many Webbot videos did I do on that one? Oh, new Webbot hit. Another lake dried up overnight. Oh, Webbot hit. A river went next to this little village. It dried up overnight. The people are standing there and taking a picture. They're just all in this thing that dried up. Guatemala's volcano and fire erupted Saturday, February 25th, spewing lava and sending up plumes of ash that rained down on nearby communities and could even reach the capital. Could eventually reach the capital, civil protection authorities said. I love that word, authorities. The authority, respect the authority. The Volcan de Fuego, one of the country's 3 active volcanoes, is located about 45 kilometers southwest of the capital of Guatemala City. It was the volcano's second eruption this year. This year, we're only in March 1st, 2nd, And in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a fire hose of lava also has been pouring out of the Kilauea volcano since December 31st. Meanwhile, a number of large volcanoes that have been dormant for a very long time all over the world have started springing back to life. For instance, the only active volcano in India has suddenly started spewing lava and ash after being silent for 150 years. Let me just say this to my people in America. More so on the central/western side of things. There's this volcano. It's called Yellowstone area. Old caldera, old ancient prehistoric volcano, super volcano as they call it. And I remember several years ago, people, they were somewhere in the park or whatever, and they were talking about how their boots, shoes and whatnot, were melting to the ground they were standing on. The lava underneath wherever they were standing, I guess, was hot enough, even though it hadn't cracked the ground or anything yet or came out, was making the ground hot enough that it burnt rubber on their boots. Strangest thing ever. I got a sneaky suspicion that might be happening again. So let me just say this emphatically. God help all of us if that sucker goes off. You better hope and pray that if it does go off, it's a burp. Not a vomit, a burp. And that it's not that bad, okay? At one time, scientists would speak of dead volcanoes. Oh, the scientists who never want to change their theories. It's against the laws of physics. It's against this. This is dormant. It's never coming back to life. Oh, it came back to life. Oh, that particle can move. We didn't know that it could move. Oh, there's gravity waves. We didn't know there were such things. Oh, right. At one time, morons would speak of dead volcanoes, but now we learn that it really isn't safe to speak of any volcano as being completely dead. So many of these long dormant volcanoes are roaring back to life. And why this is suddenly happening now is puzzling many of the experts. So again, can we just focus for 1 second? Something I haven't talked about in a little while. The Mayan calendar, 2012, December. Earth changes. Yeah, it wasn't this catastrophic one-time event. And I said, guys, I think this is going to be a series of events. And from what I'm studying, earthquake activity, volcanic activity, which this was years ago. I haven't talked really about it this much in recent times. But I said I can see it doing this. So that date still may be relevant as a warning date. Hey, it's going to get worse until it peaks. Everything has to peak. Everything has a climax top. That's it. And then it goes down. So until I see less volcanic activity, less earthquake activity, etc., we can't say that we've even hit the top. And now, starting off this year, there's volcanoes going off all over the place. So many of these long dormant volcanoes are roaring back to life, and why this is suddenly happening now is puzzling. It's puzzling the experts. Oh, are those experts the same ones that said global warming was caused by man? By chance? Just curious. And as you have seen, this isn't isolated to just one or two geographic regions. It's literally happening all over the globe. Last month, Indonesia's Mount Sinabung in the southern hemisphere erupted 7 times in the space of a single day. And meanwhile, authorities, I love the authorities, in the northern hemisphere were warning us that 4 of Iceland's biggest volcanoes are preparing to erupt. So yeah, listen, about that country that I really like a lot because of the way they throw out the bankers, charge them, 4 volcanoes, little tiny island. I'll stay in Florida, thanks. Indonesia and Iceland are about as far apart as you can get, and yet they are both being affected by this worldwide phenomenon. Without a doubt, something definitely appears to be causing a significant increase in worldwide seismic activity. Let's talk about earthquakes for a moment. A website known as the Big Wobble recently published an article that included 2 extraordinary maps. The first map showed the number of major earthquakes from January 1900 to January 1917. And the second map showed the number of major earthquakes from January 2000 to January 2017. The difference between the 2 maps was absolutely startling, to say the least, and I would like to share what these 2 maps look like. Let me just do a little zoom for you. This century, would you take a look at all of the dots on that map? That is almost freaking insane, if I don't mind saying so myself, in case you're wondering. It's becoming extremely difficult to deny that something is happening to the crust of our planet, and many are becoming concerned about what we could soon experience if the level of seismic activity continues to rise. We already talked about Mount Etna, but a much greater threat in Italy appears to be awakening under the city of Naples. A massive supervolcano known as Campi Flegrei is close to a critical state, and if it erupts, the consequences will be beyond catastrophic. The following comes from National Geographic. And by the way, where there's earthquake activity, volcanic activity, vice versa, they kind of go hand in hand. Webbot's been saying look for a big quake kind of a thing, Italy, something like that. Yeah, coming soon. So National Geographic says a long, quiet, yet huge supervolcano that lies under 500,000 people in Italy may be waking up and approaching a critical state. Based on physical measurements and computer modeling, we propose that magma could be approaching the CDP, or critical degassing pressure, at Campi Flegrei, a volcano in the metropolitan area of Naples, one of the most densely inhabited areas in the world, and where accelerating deformation and heating are currently being observed, wrote the scientists who are led by Giovanni Cialdini of the Italian National Institute of Geophysics in Rome. Giovanni, it's me, Giovanni, I'm gonna win. If that supervolcano were to fully erupt, millions could die. The skies in the northern hemisphere would be darkened for months, and the resulting volcanic winter would cause famines all across the globe. And the same things could be said about the supervolcano that is awakening in North Korea too. There's another supervolcano awakening. Boy, this is getting better by the second. When's the old supervolcano in America gonna, wake up and play with this? It's been in slumber like a bear, hibernating. It's time to wake up, burp a little, maybe throw up on everybody, burn them to death. That old chestnut. Someday Mount Rainier will erupt, and the horror that this will mean for the Northwest is beyond anything that I could put in words for you right now. We live at a time when our planet is becoming increasingly unstable, and a major natural disaster could change all of our lives in a single moment. So that's stuff. This is stuff the Webbot has been saying. Look at this. This is going to be happening. And if those charts don't agree, I don't know what does. And again, it hasn't peaked. The stuff is still getting worse. So on the other thing the Webbot said to look out for once again, very recently, suicide and suicided people, as in make it look like a suicide, and real thing suicide. This, I may say, might be the real thing, not a suicided person. A prominent 47-year-old hedge fund trader was killed when he jumped from a luxury, well, had to be a luxury apartment, you know, you're a trader, trading paper crap. Anyway, was killed when he jumped from a luxury apartment building in Manhattan's Upper West Side in an apparent suicide, authorities told the New York Post. Kevin Bell, this one's from Zero Hedge, by the way. Kevin Bell, most recently head of credit risk. He was the head of credit risk. How risky is our company getting into this stuff? At Arrowgrass Capital, jumped from a 9th floor kitchen window at the Apthorpe building on West End Avenue near West 79th Street around 7:20 a.m. He landed on scaffolding that was set up in front of the building and was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, I will say, he could have been suicided, could have been pushed. We definitely had some similar scenarios a few years back, Webot called correctly. Nonetheless, it's one or the other. Bell left a note indicating he had been depressed, the source said. He had a history of depression, the source added. But you're head of credit risk at Arrowgrass Capital. You jumped from a 9th floor kitchen window. Was that the luxury apartment building? I mean, you got it made. I mean, depressed. What are you talking about? Depressed. Show me a bankster that's ever depressed. I mean, look at Lloyd Blankfein. We are doing God's work. That's not depressing. For you and I it is, but not him. According to the New York Post, Bell left behind a wife and 2 daughters. His wife was at home when he jumped. According to the source, the family is hysterical. So that to me means this was the real deal. He was at home and jumped out the kitchen window. He was under a lot of meds. He did not give a specific reason why he jumped, but he was depressed, the source said. And Mr. Bell, a graduate at Duke University, worked at Arrowgrass Capital Partners, where he was head of credit risk, according to his LinkedIn page. Arrowgrass managed $4.5 billion as of mid-2016. Here we go. Here's what caught my eye. That this Arrowgrass Capital Partners might be in deep trouble financially. Here's what set it off for me. My opinion, but here it is. It is run by former Deutsche Bank traders, Mr. Henry Kenner and Nicholas Neal, and in 2015 had been stocking its ranks with Saba alumni after losing several people in its credit trading group in April. Well, why did they lose people? That's my question. The firm focuses on strategies, including corporate distressed assets in the U.S. and Europe. The firm focuses on strategies, including corporate distressed assets. Oh, I wonder if they had one too many distressed assets, if you know what I mean, also known as a massive liability. Prior to Arrowgrass, Mr. Bell worked at various prominent hedge funds and banks, including Saba Capital, Citadel, Citigroup, and Deutsche Bank. We are deeply saddened that our friend and colleague Kevin Bell has passed away today. We extend our sympathies and condolences to his family, Arrowgrass spokesman Nick Lord told the Post in a statement from the UK. A building worker said some residents saw the man's body. A couple of our residents reported hearing a thud. The worker said the daughter of a tenant looked out the window and she told her mother there was a man lying down on the scaffolding. The worker said the mother saw the body and notified building workers. He was bleeding, the worker said. No kidding. Some of the residents are pretty shaken up. Based on resident reports, this is not the first suicide at the building. No kidding. Was this another banker or what? Let's see here. A man who works in a nearby doctor's office was stunned about the suicide. Oh my God, another one, he said in disbelief. Somebody committed suicide a few months ago on the other side of the building. I can't believe it. It's almost exactly the same building, but just around the side, he said. Among the Apthorpe building's famed tenants were Al Pacino, Sidney Poitier, and singer and Oscar-winning actress Jennifer Hudson. The building, which is modeled after the Palazzo Pitti in Florence, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and takes up an entire city block, from Broadway to West End Avenue between 78th and 79th Streets. It was unknown if, as of this writing, if Bell's alleged depression had been impacted by recent market performance. Well, I got to tell you, old J Snip 4 here speaking. There's some problems at the company he worked for, trust me. Financial issues of epic proportions, trust me. He was the one that knew all about it, trust me. And it was enough for him to say, we have $4.5 billion of other people's money. That's an enormous amount of people that are relying on our company to do the right thing with their money. We're telling them we are. We've got some stuff that are cooked on our books that are out of this world, and it's getting close to coming out. And I can't take it. I'm stressed out of my head. I'm going to just jump out of the window. Let me explain something to you. Now, number one, he was probably on something. He says he was depressed and he was on some kind of pharmaceutical. I'm sure the side effects included suicidal thoughts, jumping off of buildings, that kind of thing. But beside that, I have 3 little girls and a wife. No matter how depressed or upset about something I was, there's not a chance in hell I would kill myself, jump out of a building, in my own house. Oh, my kids and wife, they're over there. Nice day to jump out the window. I'm just going to jump out. Not even a goodbye, just a letter, which we don't get to read. But a letter, honey, I'm leaving you, kids, sorry. Splatter my body and blood all over the place for everyone in this very upscale apartment building to see. So Webbot said to look for these things. No sooner did it say to look for these things, as in within the last 2 months, we have our first, unless there's another one I've missed, Bankster casualty of 2017. And according to the Webbot, it's going to be a meme. You're going to hear another one and another one down. Another one bites the dust, that kind of thing. Take care.